This story is titled "My Wife Got Back in Shape and Thought She Could Do Better, so she filed for divorce but quickly regretted it." Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need a quick favor from you guys. We've noticed the channel's been losing a little traction lately, and honestly, subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It takes just a second, it's completely free, and it really helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means everything to us, and together we can keep this channel growing strong. Thanks so much. Now let's get into the video. What's up, everyone? It's Dave here, and trust me, you're gonna want to buckle up because my life turned into a complete disaster not too long ago. I'm 34 years old, just a regular warehouse manager living in Columbus. My life wasn't anything flashy, but it was stable. I had a decent job, a nice house, and I was married to Carla. We'd been together for 5 years and married for 3. Honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. Sure, we weren't one of those super affectionate couples you see on TV, but we made things work. The bills got paid, we had our occasional date nights, and the arguments we had felt like normal marriage stuff. Or at least that's what I thought. About 6 months ago, Carla suddenly decided she wanted to go all in on fitness. Completely came out of nowhere, but I supported her. She joined this fancy gym downtown that honestly looked more like a luxury spa than a gym. She hired a personal trainer named Justin, and before long she was constantly talking about meal prep, macros, detoxes, and all this fitness stuff. I didn't mind it. Actually, I encouraged her. I mean, everyone deserves to feel good about themselves, right? Plus, I figured it was just another temporary phase, like when she got obsessed with knitting for a few weeks or that weird tarot card phase she had. At first, I even tried helping out more around the house. I started taking on extra chores, dishes, laundry, grocery shopping, so she'd have more time to focus on her workouts. I thought it was my way of showing her I cared. But slowly, things started changing. And not in a good way. The more weight Carla lost, the bigger her ego seemed to get. She became obsessed with herself. She'd spend hours in front of the mirror adjusting her gym outfits or trying to get the perfect progress picture for Instagram. It stopped feeling like she was doing this for herself. It felt like she wanted attention from everyone else too. I remember this one night when I suggested we watch a movie together. It was Friday, and I thought maybe we could relax like we used to. She looked at me like I'd said something stupid. "Dave, I don't have time to just sit around. I have goals to crush." Goals? What goals? It's not like she was training for a marathon or climbing Mount Everest. She was lifting weights and drinking green smoothies that looked like swamp water. But whatever, I let it go. Maybe I was the unreasonable one. Then came the morning that changed everything. Started like any other day. I was half asleep drinking my coffee before work while Carla was downing one of her usual kale spinach disaster smoothies. She was already dressed in workout clothes, scrolling through her phone like her life depended on it. Out of nowhere, she said, "I deserve more in life." I looked up, still barely awake. "More of what?" She set her smoothie down and looked at me dead serious. "This marriage is holding me back, Dave. I'm filing for divorce." I swear, at first I thought she was joking. I actually laughed because I thought there was no way she was serious. But she didn't laugh back. Her face was completely cold. "I've outgrown this," she said, like I was some old piece of furniture she didn't need anymore. "You wouldn't understand." I just sat there in shock, completely blindsided. My wife, the woman I'd spent years building a life with, had just dropped that on me like it was nothing. I tried to process what she was saying, but all I could feel was this mix of anger and disbelief building inside me. "What do you mean you've outgrown this?" I asked. "Outgrown what?" She sighed like I was some annoying kid asking too many questions. "Dave, I've been working on myself. I'm trying to become the best version of me, and honestly, this life doesn't match my potential anymore. I want more than this house, this routine, this you." That hit hard. She didn't even try to soften it. In her eyes, I was part of the problem. The life we built together just wasn't good enough for her anymore. Then she grabbed her gym bag and walked right out the door without even saying goodbye. I sat there staring at the half-empty glass of green sludge she left behind, wondering what the hell had just happened. That whole day at work felt like a blur. I went through the motions, but my mind kept replaying everything Carla said. Was this actually real? Was she seriously leaving me? Yeah, we'd argued before, but divorce? That felt completely different. And the way she said it, calm, rehearsed, almost emotionless, made it obvious she'd been planning this for a long time. Over the next few days, the problems in our marriage became impossible to ignore. She barely talked to me unless it was about splitting up the house or setting up mediation. She started staying out late, saying she was at the gym or hanging out with friends. Her phone never left her hand, and her Instagram was suddenly filled with selfies and captions like, "New Chapter 2 Hearts," and "Living my best life." Every single post felt like a slap in the face, a reminder that mentally, she'd already moved on long before the divorce papers were even filed. The divorce papers weren't even signed yet, and one night while scrolling through my social media, I noticed something that honestly hit harder than I expected. Carla had deleted every single picture of us. Wedding photos? Gone. Anniversary posts? Erased. It was like she was trying to completely wipe me out of her life. Meanwhile, her new posts were blowing up with likes and comments from people hyping her up. "You're glowing. So inspiring. Living your best life." It honestly made me sick. None of these people had any idea who the real Carla was or what she was putting me through behind the scenes. Then one night, while I was getting ready for work, I overheard her talking on the phone in the kitchen. She was using that fake sweet voice she always put on whenever she wanted something from someone. "Yeah, I just feel so free now," she said. "I'm finally doing what makes me happy." Then she paused and laughed. "He doesn't even get it. He's stuck in the past." That was the moment it really hit me. Carla wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to reinvent herself. And in her mind, I was just dead weight she needed to cut loose. But here's the thing. I'm not the kind of guy who just rolls over and accepts getting walked on. She thought she could bulldoze through my life, take what she wanted, and move on like I never mattered. She was about to get a rude awakening. And trust me, things only got worse from there. One afternoon, I was grabbing lunch at a cafe near work, just minding my own business and scrolling through my phone, when I overheard two guys at the table next to me talking about some fitness influencer they found online. At first, I wasn't paying attention. Then one of them said her name, Carla. My stomach dropped. The two of them were laughing and talking about how she'd started posting premium content. At first I thought, no way, there's no chance they're talking about my wife. But then one of them pulled up her Instagram on his phone. And there she was, my Carla. They kept going on about how she was teasing an OnlyFans account and posting links in her bio with captions like, "For the real workouts, winking face." I could literally feel my blood boiling. This wasn't just some fitness journey anymore. Carla was using her so-called new freedom to turn herself into an online thirst trap for attention and money. The second I got home, I confronted her. She was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone like nothing in the world was wrong. "Carla," I said, trying hard not to lose my temper. "What the hell is this OnlyFans thing I'm hearing about?" She looked up at me completely calm. "It's my body, Dave. My choice. And honestly, it's none of your business anymore." I couldn't believe the nerve. None of my business? We're still married. You're out here selling yourself online while I'm trying to keep our lives from completely falling apart. She rolled her eyes like I was some clueless old man who just didn't understand modern life. "It's not selling myself," she snapped. "It's content creation. Plenty of people do it. Besides, it's not like you're paying my bills anymore." That's when reality really hit me. Carla didn't just want a divorce. She wanted an entirely new identity. One where she was the star of the show and I was just some side character she'd already written out of the script. And the craziest part? She wasn't embarrassed at all. If anything, she seemed proud of it. Like she'd finally discovered her true self by becoming some kind of online spectacle. Over the next few weeks, things got even more ridiculous. She started dressing like she was auditioning for a reality TV show. Skin-tight dresses, sky-high heels, makeup layered on so thick it looked like frosting. Every time she left the house, she looked like she was heading to a red carpet event instead of running errands. And don't even get me started on the captions she posted online. "Living my truth, sparkles. No more holding back, kiss mark." and the one that nearly made me throw my phone across the room. She's not a wife anymore. She's a force of nature. The audacity. While Carla was busy acting like an internet celebrity, I was the one stuck dealing with the actual fallout. Lawyers, paperwork, mediation, all of it. But Carla wasn't nearly as untouchable as she thought she was. My lawyer, Steve, absolute legend by the way, had started digging into a few things. And let's just say, he found some interesting information. Turns out Carla had been seeing someone. And honestly, calling this guy a personal trainer was generous. He was basically a gold digger with a gym membership. Yeah. I think you can guess who I'm talking about. Stay tuned, because things are about to get really messy. Update 1. What's up again? Reddit? It's Dave, your favorite soon-to-be divorced guy watching his ex-wife's midlife crisis unfold in real time. If you've been following the story, then you already know Carla decided she was suddenly too good for our life together, walked out on me, and has been strutting around town acting like she's some kind of fitness celebrity. But now it's time to talk about the guy who's been fueling this whole disaster. Justin. Yep, her personal trainer. Real original, right? The second I heard his name, I knew there was no way this was just some innocent trainer-client relationship. Justin was exactly the kind of guy you'd expect to see on some trashy reality dating show. Shredded, overly spray-tanned, and about as deep as a puddle. The dude was all muscles, fake charm, and smug little smirks, like he walked straight out of a low-budget rom-com. And Carla? She wasn't subtle about their connection at all. One day she walked into the house after one of her workouts practically glowing with excitement. "Justin says I'm the strongest I've ever been," she bragged, barely even looking at me. "Yeah, Carla," I said. "I'm sure Justin also tells every client he's never trained anyone like them before. Pretty sure that's part of the script." A few weeks later, she stopped pretending it was just about workouts. Suddenly, Justin's name was showing up in every conversation. "Justin's taking me to this new vegan restaurant. Justin says this protein powder is life-changing." Meanwhile, I'm just standing there thinking, do I look like I care? But Carla wasn't just casually mentioning him anymore. She was flaunting him like he was some kind of trophy. And word spread fast. Friends started texting me screenshots and stories about Carla and Justin being seen all over town together. Holding hands. Laughing, acting like they were some perfect influencer couple. Carla didn't even try to hide it. One night she walked into the house bold as ever and said, "Just so you know, Justin and I are dating now. I think it's time you accept that." Oh, I accepted it all right. I accepted that my wife had turned into a complete caricature of entitlement. At that point, she'd already mentally divorced me, so adding a public affair to the mix clearly didn't bother her at all. But the more I learned about Justin, the angrier I got. Because this guy wasn't just some random gym bro. He had a pattern. My lawyer Steve, who honestly deserves a medal at this point, started digging into Justin's background and found out he'd pulled this exact stunt before. Twice. His whole game was finding married women, showering them with compliments and validation, convincing them they deserved better, and encouraging them to leave their husbands. Then, once the drama settled and the money dried up, he'd disappear like Houdini. Justin wasn't some misunderstood romantic. The guy was basically a professional homewrecker. This wasn't love. It was a hustle. He'd build these women up, make them feel unstoppable, ride the emotional high with them, and then bail the second things stopped benefiting him. And Carla? She was the perfect target. She craved attention and validation like oxygen, and Justin knew exactly how to exploit that. He had her completely wrapped around his finger, and she was too blinded by ego to even notice. The worst part was how smug he was about the whole thing. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard Justin was already talking big about their future together. Apparently, he'd told someone, "Once the divorce is finalized, Carla and I are going to build an empire." An empire? Dude, you're a personal trainer, not a tech billionaire. Relax. But Justin wasn't just counting on Carla's money. He was counting on mine too. Carla was demanding half my savings, spousal support, and even trying to take the house. She genuinely thought she could walk into court, play the victim, and leave with a golden ticket funding her and Justin's dream life together. What she didn't realize was that my lawyer had receipts. and I wasn't about to just roll over and hand her everything. Let me paint you a picture of what Carla and Justin looked like together. Imagine a guy whose entire wardrobe consists of tank tops standing next to a woman who suddenly thinks she's a Kardashian. That was them. They were constantly posting on social media, posing in front of luxury cars that obviously weren't theirs, checking into expensive restaurants, and acting like they'd made it in life. Honestly, I'm pretty sure Carla was paying for most of it. It all felt so forced, like they were desperately trying to convince the world, and maybe themselves, that they were winning. But anyone with half a brain could see the cracks underneath all the fake glamour. And those cracks started showing sooner than they expected. Justin's over-the-top ego eventually started clashing with Carla's growing diva attitude. One night, I overheard Carla arguing on the phone in the kitchen. "I don't care what your exes said about you, Justin," she snapped. "You're with me now, and I deserve better than your baggage." I didn't hear the rest of the conversation, but honestly, I didn't need to. That little fantasy relationship they were showing off online clearly wasn't nearly as perfect as they wanted everyone to believe. And as angry as the whole situation made me, there was also something weirdly satisfying about watching Carla go all in on Justin. She had bet everything on this guy. She genuinely believed he was her ticket to some better, more glamorous life. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before their whole little house of cards collapsed. And trust me, my lawyer and I were making sure of it. After mediation, Carla's confidence definitely took a hit. She walked into that room acting like Beyoncé, and walked out looking completely shell-shocked. Honestly, it was beautiful to watch. And Justin, her loyal little hype man, he didn't even try to comfort her. He just sat there sulking. That was my first real clue that their little empire wasn't nearly as solid as Carla wanted everyone to think. But let's rewind for a second. Mediation wasn't just a minor setback for Carla. It was a complete disaster. She walked into that room thinking she was going to cry a little, play the victim, and walk out with the house, half my savings, and spousal support. Her lawyer tried to paint her as this underappreciated wife who sacrificed everything to support my mediocre dreams. Mediocre dreams? I'd been busting my ass at that warehouse job for years. Thankfully, my lawyer Steve came prepared. And when I say prepared, I mean prepared. The guy had spreadsheets, screenshots, bank records, and credit card statements ready to go. Turns out Carla had been draining our joint account for months before filing for divorce. We're talking luxury spa trips, designer clothes, expensive dinners, all while I was sitting at home eating leftovers and trying to figure out where our marriage went wrong. Steve made sure every single dollar she blew through was brought up in court. Then came Justin's history. And oh man, that was ugly. Steve uncovered his past affairs, his pattern of targeting married women, sweet-talking them into leaving their husbands, and then disappearing the second the money stopped flowing the way he wanted. But the best part? Steve even found messages from one of Justin's exes warning Carla to stay away from him. Of course, Carla ignored it. She thought she was different. By that point, Justin's cocky little smirk had completely disappeared. Honestly, the guy looked nervous, like he was realizing his whole scam was falling apart right in front of him. Carla still tried defending him. "Justin isn't like that anymore," she insisted. Yeah, nobody was buying it, especially not the judge. By the end of mediation, it became painfully obvious Carla wasn't walking away with the huge payout she expected. And Justin? The guy looked like he was already mentally planning his escape route. After mediation, Carla started acting different. The smug attitude faded fast. She still kept posting motivational nonsense on Instagram, but now the captions sounded more desperate than confident. Instead of "living my best life sparkles," it became, "Growth isn't always easy, but it's worth it." Sure, Carla, keep telling yourself that. Meanwhile, Justin's true colors were starting to show too. He was technically still around, but nowhere near as much as Carla pretended online. Suddenly there were fewer date nights, fewer public appearances, and no more couple goals gym photos. Then rumors started spreading that Justin had already moved on to flirting with another client. Someone younger, flashier, and apparently without all of Carla's divorce drama attached to her. Classic Justin. One night, Carla came home really late while I was still living in the house. Legally, I couldn't kick her out yet, so we were stuck under the same roof. She walked in looking completely drained. I didn't say anything. I just sat on the couch watching her. She dropped her designer bag onto the counter and let out this dramatic sigh, like she wanted me to ask what was wrong. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. I just got up and went to my room. The next morning, she tried acting like everything was normal. She was in the kitchen making one of those disgusting kale smoothies, but the confidence she used to carry around was clearly gone. "Justin's been really busy with clients lately," she said out of nowhere. I didn't even respond. I knew exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to ask questions, to show concern, to give her attention. Not happening. Then about a week later, the real chaos started. I got a call from Steve telling me Carla had filed last-minute paperwork trying to claim even more assets. And this part still blows my mind. She was asking for emotional compensation because of the stress I supposedly caused her during the marriage. Yeah. Seriously. Apparently Carla thought she deserved extra money because of her own midlife crisis. The audacity was unbelievable. Luckily, Steve had already anticipated something like this. He immediately filed a countersuit showing how Carla had drained our accounts and manipulated the situation to benefit herself. He even included screenshots of her Instagram posts as evidence. Honestly, the captions alone were gold. They completely destroyed her whole stressed and emotionally broken wife act. Instead, they painted the picture of exactly what she was. Someone obsessed with attention and living her best life at my expense. And right around that same time, Justin officially disappeared. Gone. He stopped showing up to their gym sessions, stopped answering her calls, and this part still makes me laugh, blocked her on Instagram. Blocked. Carla completely lost it. I could hear her pacing around the house nonstop trying to call him. "Justin, call me back. We need to talk." She sounded absolutely desperate. And honestly, after everything she put me through, it was pretty satisfying to watch. Eventually, one of Carla's friends spilled the whole story. Justin had already moved on to another client. Someone younger, more glamorous, and most likely with fewer problems attached. Most importantly, she wasn't tied up in a messy divorce. Carla was devastated. At first, she tried to act like she was fine. She started posting those vague, dramatic quotes on social media like, "Sometimes people aren't who they seem," and "You can't build an empire with someone who plays games." But everyone knew exactly what had happened. Her perfect man disappeared the second things got difficult. And honestly, that's when Carla's whole entitled attitude really started falling apart. She stopped going to the gym. The glamorous outfits disappeared and got replaced with sweatpants, messy buns, and exhausted looks. She even stopped posting on Instagram for a while, which honestly shocked me more than anything. It was like her entire identity had been built around Justin and this fantasy life she imagined they'd have together. Once he vanished, she had no idea who she was anymore. Then one evening, she actually tried talking to me. "Dave," she said while standing awkwardly in the living room doorway, "I think we need to reevaluate everything. This divorce, it's been hard on both of us." I just stared at her waiting for the joke. "What exactly are you getting at, Carla?" She let out this dramatic sigh like somehow she was the victim in all of this. "I just think maybe we rushed into things," she said softly. "I mean, we had good times too, didn't we?" I almost laughed. "Carla," I said, "you're the one who filed for divorce. You literally told me I was holding you back. Remember that?" Now that Justin was gone, suddenly she was having second thoughts. Unbelievable. Then she started trying to play the sympathy card, talking about how lonely she felt and how much she'd sacrificed for our marriage. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. "Carla," I cut in, "you made your bed. Now lie in it." And honestly, I didn't have to do anything after that. Her fantasy world was collapsing all on its own. Karma was handling the rest. That's all for now, Reddit. I'll update you guys after the final court decision, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Update 2. Hey Reddit, Dave back again. If you've stuck with me this far, then buckle up because this is where everything finally came crashing down. As you know, Carla, my soon-to-be ex-wife, thought she could walk into court, take everything I worked for, and ride off into the sunset with Justin, her personal trainer. But karma finally came knocking. And now we were at the final stage of this whole disaster. Let me tell you how court day went down, because I guarantee Carla wishes she could erase that day from her memory forever. When Carla walked into the courtroom, the energy was completely different from before. Gone was the dramatic diva entrance I'd gotten used to. No designer blazer. No smug grin. No main character energy. It was just her and her lawyer looking nervous as hell. Like two kids walking into detention. Honestly, I loved every second of it. Meanwhile, I showed up with Steve. And Steve, the man came prepared. He walked in carrying a binder so thick it could have doubled as a weapon. At that point, I wasn't nervous anymore. Carla had already thrown everything she had at me, and I was still standing. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. I wanted to win. Carla's lawyer started things off by bringing up her emotional compensation claim again. The same ridiculous argument that I had somehow emotionally damaged her by not supporting her personal growth. Apparently, according to them, my failure to support her fitness journey, which was basically code for her affair with Justin, counted as emotional neglect. Steve let them talk. He just sat there quietly while they kept digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole. Then it was our turn. And Steve absolutely dismantled them. First, he presented evidence showing that I had supported Carla the entire time. Not just supported her, gone above and beyond for her. He showed proof that I took over extra chores at home, adjusted my work schedule to help her, and constantly encouraged her goals during her whole fitness phase. Then he started reading text messages out loud in court. Messages where I offered to cook healthy meals for her. Messages where I encouraged her workouts. Messages where I even suggested we take couples fitness classes together to spend more time bonding. Then Steve dropped the bomb. He argued that Carla's emotional compensation claim wasn't just false. It was actually her attempt to distract everyone from her own emotional neglect and manipulation. And the evidence? Brutal. Steve presented emails and text messages where Carla mocked me to her friends, calling me boring, dead weight, and even referring to me as her backup plan. But the financial evidence was even worse. Steve pulled out bank statements showing how Carla had drained thousands of dollars from our joint account funding her luxury lifestyle while pretending to be some struggling victim. At that point, Carla's lawyer tried interrupting and pushing back. But Steve wasn't finished. Not even close. Then came the final blow. Steve revealed a journal entry Carla had written, one he legally obtained through subpoena. And in that journal entry, Carla literally described her plan to leave me, take as much money as possible in the divorce, and use the settlement to build a new life with Justin. The look on the judge's face when he read it? Pure disbelief. The entire courtroom went dead silent. The judge slowly flipped through the pages, and with every document he read, his expression got more serious. Meanwhile, Carla sat there next to her lawyer looking completely panicked, nervously tapping her perfectly polished nails against the table. Her confidence, the same confidence she'd been flaunting all through mediation, completely disappeared. Across the table, I sat next to Steve feeling this mix of anticipation and satisfaction. This was it. The moment Carla's entire carefully crafted story was finally about to fall apart. The judge started by addressing Carla's emotional compensation claim. "Mrs. Patterson," he said calmly but firmly, "your request for emotional compensation lacks any substantial evidence." Then he paused for a second, letting that sink in before continuing. "While emotional distress can absolutely be considered in certain cases, this court requires clear and provable evidence. Your claims are based on personal feelings, not facts." Then he turned toward Steve's arguments. The judge reviewed everything, the text messages, the bank statements, even the Instagram posts. And honestly, the picture they painted was completely different from the one Carla and her lawyer had tried to sell. "Mr. Patterson," the judge said, finally looking at me, "the evidence shows a clear and consistent pattern of support toward your wife throughout the marriage. There is no indication of emotional neglect. In fact, the evidence suggests the exact opposite. You went above and beyond to accommodate her needs and aspirations." Carla's lawyer immediately tried to interrupt, stumbling through some objection about the evidence being taken out of context. The judge shut him down instantly with a raised hand. The context is perfectly clear, counselor. Let's move on. Then came the financial side of the case. The judge carefully went through all the evidence Steve had presented. Mrs. Patterson, he continued, his tone getting noticeably colder. You withdrew over $223,000 from your joint accounts leading up to the divorce filing. These funds were not used for household expenses or shared financial responsibilities. Instead, they were spent on luxury purchases, expensive dining, and personal indulgences. Then came the line that really hit. The court finds this behavior irresponsible and in direct violation of your marital financial obligations. Carla shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her face turning bright red. Her lawyer tried downplaying it, claiming the spending was part of her coping process during a difficult emotional period. The judge looked completely unimpressed. Coping mechanisms do not justify financial recklessness, he said sharply. Then they moved on to the house. Carla had been absolutely convinced she deserved half of it. Her argument was that she'd contributed emotionally to maintaining the home, even if she hadn't contributed financially. But Steve was already ready for that too. He presented records showing that I had paid the mortgage, handled maintenance, and covered renovations entirely on my own while Carla contributed basically nothing financially. The judge didn't sugarcoat his ruling. The house will remain the property of Mr. Patterson, he said firmly. Mrs. Patterson, based on the evidence presented, you have no financial claim to the property. Carla's jaw literally dropped. Her lawyer leaned over and whispered something to her, but she barely reacted. She just sat there stunned. But the judge still wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, due to the unauthorized use of marital funds, Mrs. Patterson is ordered to reimburse Mr. Patterson in the amount of $23,750. The courtroom went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Carla's lawyer completely slumped back in his chair looking defeated, and Carla herself looked like someone had punched all the air out of her lungs. Her entire carefully built narrative had collapsed right there in front of everyone. No sympathy, no payout, no glamorous fresh start, just consequences. Then the judge closed the folder in front of him. This court is adjourned. And just like that, it was over. I leaned back in my chair, feeling this massive wave of relief wash over me. For the first time in months, I felt like I could finally breathe again. Justice had finally been served. As we walked out of the courtroom, the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Carla's lawyer was already stuffing papers into his briefcase without making eye contact with anybody. Carla followed behind him with her head down. It was honestly surreal. This was the same woman who had walked into this entire process acting like the star of some reality show. Now she looked completely defeated. Steve gave me a pat on the back as we headed toward the exit. We did it, he said with a small smile. I nodded, genuinely grateful for everything he'd done. The guy hadn't just defended me. He exposed the truth behind all of Carla's manipulation. Right before leaving the courthouse, I glanced back one last time. Carla was standing there staring blankly at the floor. And for a split second, I actually felt a little sorry for her. But that feeling disappeared fast. Because at the end of the day, she created all of this chaos herself. And now, she was finally facing the consequences of everything she'd done. Over the next few days, the fallout from the court ruling became impossible to ignore. Carla had been ordered to move out of the house within 30 days, and I made sure that deadline was enforced. Of course, she tried to delay things. She kept saying she needed more time to get her affairs in order. But I wasn't giving in. I reminded her that she'd already had plenty of time to prepare while she was busy showing off her affair with Justin and acting like she had life all figured out. Eventually, though, she had no choice. She packed her things and left. And honestly, watching her drive away that final day felt strangely satisfying. She loaded all her designer luggage into this beat-up old car one of her friends had apparently loaned her and pulled away without even saying goodbye. The second she was gone, the house felt different. Peaceful. For the first time in months, there wasn't tension hanging in the air anymore. No arguments. No fake Instagram speeches. No chaos. Just silence. Meanwhile, Carla's financial situation completely spiraled. Without access to my income or the joint accounts she'd been draining, she was suddenly on her own. She started trying to sell off her designer bags, clothes, and luxury stuff, but it still wasn't enough to cover the money she owed me. Eventually, word started getting around that she was borrowing money from friends. Friends who were quickly getting tired of hearing the same sob stories over and over again. And Justin? He completely disappeared. Gone. No calls. No texts. Nothing. He never came back. Then, about 2 weeks after the court ruling, Carla showed up at the house unexpectedly. I opened the door and barely recognized her. The polished, glamorous image she'd worked so hard to create was completely gone. Her hair was messy, her eyes looked exhausted, and she honestly seemed like she hadn't slept in days. "Dave," she said quietly, her voice shaking a little. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "What do you want, Carla?" She hesitated, nervously wringing her hands together. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I made mistakes. Big ones. I let Justin manipulate me. I got caught up in this fantasy and I ruined everything." The thing is, her words sounded practiced. But the desperation, that part was real. She wasn't there because she suddenly realized how badly she hurt me. She was there because everything had fallen apart and she had nowhere else to go. I looked at her calmly. "I don't know what you expect me to say," I told her. "You made your choices. You chose Justin. You chose to try and take everything from me. And now you're dealing with the consequences." Tears started filling her eyes. "Can't we at least be civil?" she asked softly. "Maybe start over? I have nothing, Dave. I'm lost." I stared at her for a long moment, but honestly, all I felt was clarity. "Carla," I said, "I gave you everything. My support, my trust, my love, and you threw it away. You don't get to come back now asking for a second chance. That's not how this works." At that point, she completely broke down crying on my porch, but I didn't move. After a few seconds, I turned around, walked back inside, and closed the door behind me, leaving her alone with the consequences of her choices. And honestly, that was the end of it. Since then, I've moved on with my life. As for Carla, from what I've heard through mutual friends, she's still struggling to get back on her feet. She burned bridges, lost friendships, and now has to live with the reality she created for herself. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock politely at your door. Sometimes it kicks the whole thing down. And for Carla, it left behind nothing but the consequences of her own actions.